Not the news Mountaineer fans wanted to hear, as Jaheim White has apparently decided he's going to try his hand at the transfer portal. And in this live edition of the Bald and Beard Show, I am Couz, the Bald, and I'm here with my special guest, the Beard. And we're going to break this down, talk about how it's going to affect Mountaineer football going forward, if at all. And then second half of the show, we might touch on a little bit of Mountaineer hoops. But Beard, man, what's up?
Hey, Couz. Doing pretty good. Definitely fortunate to hear about Jaheim White. That's a big loss to the backfield. But the news hasn't quite settled in completely. Like got to look at the depth chart, see who we
Yeah,
got coming in, and all that stuff. So it may not be much, uh, but we know what we have in him. So
correct.
it's hard to fathom there being a better backfield without him. But you never know with Rodriguez. Obviously, that's a position that he covets. You
Mm-hmm.
know, so it'll be a big loss. But I wish him all the best. I wondered myself if he's going to head to North Texas with Neil Brown.
Yeah, it's hard not to question that. I feel like I had somebody ask me that earlier on X, and I feel like in a group chat I'm in, I just feel like I think he's a powerful running back. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Maybe he prefers, maybe I don't know what he values the most. Does he value playing in a P4 for a P4 team, or does he more value playing for a coach he's familiar with? Where's is Chad? What's Chad Scott doing next year? Where's he going to be?
That's true.
Because maybe he ends up wanting to follow him. Maybe he tried his hand at West Virginia and under Coach Rod, and just maybe he realizes it's not a fit for him now. I don't know, but again, no hard feelings for me. I mean, I have nothing against the young man for doing this. My only question is, he's kind of been teasing us a little bit on social media the last few weeks.
Right.
He had put out some posts. Maybe it wasn't his intentions, but he had put out some posts kind of with like comments from Mountaineer fans and on his Instagram page and stuff like that, kind of making us think that he was staying. I don't know, but maybe we read too much into that. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I kind of just based on what he had put out there. I mean, I'm assuming he was rehabbing at the university. I don't really know. I don't know the protocol and all that stuff, but yeah, it kind of seemed like he was just getting back into shape or getting back into form and was ready to go next season. Now, I guess you might be more familiar with the portal than I am. Doesn't necessarily mean he's leaving,
Correct.
right? He's just putting his name out there. So
That's correct.
there's still a chance you come back, but I guess if you're going to go ahead and do that, it's probably that's probably your last resort is to stay with the team that you were with. Probably just getting
It's rare.
yeah, yeah. So I guess it's not 100% door closed on him coming back, but it probably definitely signals that he's looking somewhere else for sure. I mean, it definitely does.
Correct. And, it also makes you wonder. And by the way, this was first reported by Chris Hummer, uh,
Mhm.
24/7 Sports, but just makes you wonder. I know Rich Rod and staff have been having their what they're calling exit interviews the last few days.
Yeah,
Kind of makes you wonder, did they have a meeting with him and did he not like what he heard? And obviously we'll never know what happens in those private conversations, nor should we. But it does make you wonder and speculate. Did he get told something he wasn't happy with as far as rev share money or NIL money, or his maybe he feels like he shouldn't have to compete for a starting spot. I don't know. I don't want to speculate too much on that, but it's hard not to be curious as to what made him decide to leave. Right.
right. I wonder too. I know Rodriguez is big on this earned success.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe what they were willing to pay him, he thought maybe he was worth more. And again, I'm pure speculation. Because he only made it to the Ohio game. So I mean, I know Rodriguez probably knows what he has with the guy based on practice and a few things, but he didn't have a full season with him. And if Dior Hubbard and those guys that were here this past year tend to stick around, I mean, they may be in the running for the number one spot, like you said. And so it may just be an issue of like, hey, we're not going to pay you starter money because we don't know if you're going to be a starter next season.
Right. And maybe he wants to test the waters and see what's
That's
out.
true. There's a million different reasons why and all of them are valid now in college football, right? You
Correct.
can,
And he does have an agent, and maybe his agent said, "Hey, man, I might be able to get you this." Chris Hummer's announcement, by the way, it was on X. He says West Virginia star running back Jaheim White plans to enter the portal. His agents at Ethos SG tell at CBS Sports White rushed for 845 yards and 7 touchdowns for WVU in 2024, and rushed for 3 touchdowns in the first 2 games of 2025 before suffering a season-ending injury. So it does, the timing of it is ironic, though. You harken back to the Neil Brown comment you made. It is ironic, the timing of it, right? As soon as
right,
Neil Brown lands the North Texas job, Jaheim gets in the portal. So it's hard not to lean that direction, but at the same time, I'll definitely be paying attention and watching where he lands. And again, I'm going to cheer for the young man as long as he doesn't go to
okay,
Pitt or somewhere, but
yeah, right.
uh,
And I'll show,
or a conference rival.
yeah, and I'll cheer for Neil Brown too. I mean,
Absolutely, I am
I
too.
think he landed in a pretty perfect spot, right there outside of Dallas. His little 6-hour circle. He likes to draw around the school. That's kind of where he recruits. I mean, that's fertile ground right there. So I think he'll have a good chance to kind of reclaim his name there a little bit.
Yep. And by the way, Hummer went on to say in a follow up, he says White was one of the top junior backs in the country entering the season, has rushed for 1,820 yards in his career. Will have 2 remaining years of eligibility with a medical redshirt from this year. So, yeah, because remember he played as a freshman, so he did not use
Right,
his redshirt.
right.
So he used that this year.
Now, what I don't want to see, I think, out of fans now is this tends to happen when a player leaves. It's they weren't really that impactful, or you kind of diminish.
Yeah.
And I would say of his time here, we probably didn't get the most out of him. I think the freshman year was probably his best one.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, he was behind C.J. Donaldson too when Neil Brown was here, and then of course he gets hurt. So I don't think we saw the best of what he could be, and I feel like with a full, healthy Jaheim White under Rich Rodriguez, you probably would see it.
Yeah.
Um, and so I can understand where people might go there, but I believe he would have been a true asset had he stuck around.
Absolutely, no doubt about it. And I feel like, and again, maybe he's again back to speculating on why he would leave or into the portal. Is he concerned about the offensive line? Is he, you know what I mean? There's 100 different reasons it
Yeah,
could be, but nonetheless, I don't. In this day and age of college football, where you can enter the transfer portal with really no, without having to lose a year or
yeah,
anything like that. I mean,
yeah,
why not? If you feel like there's a better opportunity out there, I think most of us would do the same thing in his situation. If we're not happy or feel like there's more out there for us, and let's keep in mind, it's been reported by pretty good sources in the media that he came close to doing this last year and
right,
decided to give it a shot for a year.
yeah,
And it obviously didn't go the way he wanted. Maybe he just feels like a change of scenery is good for him.
yeah. That could be it. And again, with what we have coming in this new class that Rodriguez has signed, I believe there was a number of running backs that he got. I can't remember the
Oh
exact
yeah,
number. I think it's going to be a pretty uh, full size running back room. So, and you know how Rodriguez is, like you're going to be in competition for day one,
hmm
um,
absolutely.
and so maybe he does go to like a North Texas where he knows he's going to be the guy. He's familiar with the offense, and who knows if Neil Brown brings in like Matt Moore and all the gang from West Virginia because
hmm
they're all familiar with each other. That could be a possibility. So,
Sure.
but yeah, I'll totally root for him. Like you said, as long as it's not Pitt or Virginia Tech or something. Which Virginia Tech's a possibility. They got a new coach and
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
looking,
sure.
they're looking to add to their roster. So
Absolutely. Yeah, you never know, man. Again, I wish James the best. And hope the decision works out. He seems like a great young man. I have no reason to think otherwise. And I don't, he doesn't really owe West Virginia anything, in my opinion, especially considering this is not even the staff he came to play for. So,
right, right. That plays a big part in it too. I mean, when your coach gets fired, and he at least give him credit for sticking it out a year and trying out
correct.
the coach.
Yep.
Um, it's and like you said, he doesn't owe us anything. Especially too, I think like I had pointed out before, I don't think we got the best out of him. Now, if
That's
this was
fair.
like Tavon Austin after his junior year,
Yeah.
like, come on, man, come back
Yeah.
one more year and let's do something special.
Right.
And not that Jaheim's not special, but you're in year 2 of a rebuild, and maybe you just don't want to go through that anymore.
Right. Yeah, I got a comment here from Browns and Beers, who's a channel member here. He says, "Very sad to see Jaheim's leaving. My guess is that they didn't figure they were willing to pay what he's hearing he can get on the open market." Yep, and that's kind of my instinct too. But I was just one of the things I was curious about is, and again, it's all speculation, but which is all we can do unless we know the inside info. But
Right.
we, I was curious as to what would the market be for a running back coming off an ACL injury, right? I
Yeah.
mean, you would think that would decrease his value a little bit, but maybe not. I don't know. Or maybe he's just, and it could, but maybe it goes the other way. Maybe it decreased his value to West Virginia too. I mean, it could go both ways, right?
Yeah, and I'm sure they probably, um, I'm sure, as long as you're not violating any HIPAA laws, you're probably disclosing to him that oh, his knee's fine, it's fully healed, and you know what I mean. Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I guarantee you're getting all the information you can about that. Um, and so, if everything looks good and the doctors or reports say he's good to go, you look at his tape and you figure, why not? This guy could be a game changer for you.
Yep, agreed. Real quick, I forgot to do this early on. Where can people find you and your work at before we keep going here?
Oh yeah, so find me on YouTube. It's the Trust the Beard podcast. So you can see under my name there at Earbeard. So that's on YouTube. That's on Spotify. That's on was it iHeartRadio, Apple Podcast, and then on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and X, just at Earbeard. And then I have another handle on X called Beardology. I do a lot of my own ranking system and stuff like that, which we can get into later if you want, with this whole turmoil of the college football playoff and
Yeah,
our thoughts on that. But yeah,
yeah, I'd
appreciate
love to
support.
later on.
Yeah. Um, so let me ask you about this about
Mm-hmm.
Gene White. I mean, what are your thoughts as far as how it would impact the team? Again, I don't think we saw the full potential of him, so I don't know if you think it's a big loss or it's just a wait and see.
I'm not. Is it a bit? I would be naive to say it wasn't a big loss. I
Yeah.
don't want to act like he wasn't valuable because he is. He was one of the top running backs coming in last year. I mean, he was picked to be an All Big 12 performer. PFF had him as rated as one of the top backs coming in. He had averaged 6.5 yards per carry throughout his career, which is really good. So to act like he was talking earlier, I'm not going to be one of those people who diminishes what he did and his ability. But at the same time, I also know that Rich Rodriguez is one of the best out there in getting max production out of the running back position. And like you mentioned, they brought in some really talented backs. Now, these backs are not proven yet,
Right.
mind you. Outside of if Dior Hubbard stays, maybe Sincere Bowers, he kind of knows what we kind of know what we got in those guys. But neither one of those guys ever met, has ever reached Jaheim White level. But
Right.
it doesn't mean they can't,
Right.
So, long story short, yes, it's a big loss, but it's not the end of the world, if that makes sense.
Right.
I feel like Rich Rodriguez knows what he's doing, and I feel like he knows the running back position well enough to know that, hey, we're going to be okay. And if not, he'll go get one out of the portal and be okay. I mean,
Yeah.
Everything we're hearing is that they have money to spend, so go spend it.
Yeah, and I think too that's probably the one position in football that's the easiest to replace.
Correct.
If other people other football experts may have a different opinion on that, but I think it's kind of more of a, you if the line can make the holes, a good running back can find them.
Yep.
You know what I mean, you're just running for space, and and of course there's guys that are more elusive or can break tackles and things like that. There's difference makers, but I think as overall from a drop off of talent, that's probably the easiest one to replace. And I think to piggyback what you were saying, I think initially it's going to be a big impact because you're losing a guy that can hit the ground running for next year.
Correct.
But I think in the long run of the season, I think somebody in that room is going to surface as your big time playmaker.
Yeah.
I trust that Rodriguez is going to get that guy ready.
Now I'll be more concerned, and I'm not saying Dior Hubbard is as good as Jaheim White, but because of the familiarity with the offense, if I start seeing if we see that Dior Hubbard and Sincere Bowers are both leaving too, then I might be a little bit more concerned because you're starting over from scratch again with a new back
Right.
that hasn't played in the system. But as long as we have somebody there that we can lean on to teach the other guys and somebody who's familiar with the system,
Yeah.
then I'll feel better about it. But if they all leave, then I'll be a little more nervous. Because I really don't want to go through another full-blown rebuild, even though it looks like we might be.
Right.
Anyway, with all these new freshmen coming in and JUCO guys.
I think overall it's just a disappointment because you'd like to see what he could do.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's going to hurt the program moving forward.
Yeah, we were all, most of us anyway, were all excited to keep him because we were like, man, when Rich Rod was coming in, what was everybody's thought? Man, Jaheim White will be awesome in this system.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, the game he played in was against an FBS or an FCS team, so that didn't really tell you anything. And then the Ohio game, he only got to play a couple series before he got hurt, and the O-line wasn't playing very well. So you didn't really get a good feel for what he could do yet. So that was still out there for us to see, and that's probably the most disappointing part of it.
Yeah.
For me, but I have no doubt that Coach Rod will find a replacement. Browns and Beer says we got 5 running backs coming in, and he feels like maybe there's not enough snaps to go around. That's possible. Aaron Riffle says, I seen earlier that Baxter kid at Texas plans to enter the portal. I'd bet good money Rich is all over that. Maybe. And it wouldn't surprise me if Chad Scott, last I heard Chad Scott was at Texas. If he's still at Texas, does Texas go after Jaheim?
Yeah, that's true. They could bring him in.
Chad Scott was really the reason he was at West Virginia in the first place.
Right.
So, and once he found out Chad Scott was leaving, he almost followed him out the door, but decided not to.
You saw what C.J. Donaldson did at Ohio State. Like, he had a pretty good season.
Depends on what you describe as pretty good. I think he's only got like 300 yards rushing.
Yeah.
But he might be playing for a national title too. So I mean, that's right. What's more important to him? See, Aaron Riffle also says Amari Latimer and Sir Paul Cheeks being the headliners in the class. I think we don't want to overlook Martavius Boswell. I think that young man has a chance to be special too.
Yeah, and we've said it before. That's the thing. Rodriguez is going to find guys.
Yep.
And it just he develops them. We saw what he did with Slayton and Devine and all that stuff, and Quincy Wilson and Owen Schmidt. Like, these were guys that weren't heavily recruited. Of course, Devine was, but the other ones really weren't.
Mm-mm.
And these are some of the all-time greats. So,
well, the kid he had at Jacksonville State his last year there came from the Division II level, if I recall, and ran for over 1,000 yards.
Yeah, so, I mean, it all comes down to the O-line. I mean, if they're making holes, an average running back is going to look good, So I think that's probably why I'm not, the sky isn't falling with Jaheim transferring.
Correct.
So we got enough talent around. Like, I would be willing to trade him if it meant we got more talent, to cover all line. Yeah.
Agreed. I agree 100% with that. Totally. Did you get a chance to watch we're switching gears to basketball for a second, then I want to get your thoughts on the overall landscape of college football. But so we'll be brief on this basketball piece. But did you get to watch the game the other night?
Wake Forest. Yeah. It's hard to say with this team. I mean, defensively, I think we're doing pretty good. Just kind of inconsistent on offense. It seemed like a lot of times we got down there, it was try to get Honor Huff a 3 and make some splash plays and things like that. And I mean, it's a work in progress. It's year one. His priority is defense, and certainly that's showing. So I think we got that going for us. And then, And I'm talking more, moving forward than just the game itself. We're doing really well on the recruiting trail
Mm-hmm.
for basketball. So I think once we get some guys that can just go score, I think that'll start to balance it out a little bit better.
Yeah, agree. I mean, we got the slasher and Chance Moore. We got one shooter in Huff, but I think we need at least one or two more guys who can shoot the ball consistently. We thought Eagle Staff was going to be that guy, but for whatever reason, it's just not clicking with him yet. Don't know why. Maybe he's dealing with something in his life. We don't know. Could be dealing with something in his personal life that we don't know about. There's a lot of a million different reasons. But I'll be honest with you. I think we probably need to temper our expectations a little bit on this team from year one. I said in the beginning, I think this will be a 18 win team.
Yeah.
I'm now thinking it'll be more around 14 or 15 win team.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. And I think about like other coaches that have come in here, and obviously it's hard to compare coaches today with coaches in the past because it's a different game now. Like with your portal and the NIL and all that. You think about when Beeline was building his team, and even Huggins, like they couldn't just go out and buy whoever they wanted. And Beeline kind of was rebuilding an entire roster as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they went 15-15 or 15-14. It was like 500 that first year, and you saw what he was able to accomplish. I mean, the first year is always going to be the hardest. I mean, Rich Rod always says that about football because nobody knows what to expect. And the same thing with coaches and players. Like you can look at tape, but when you have them in your system on your floor, it's a lot different than what they've done at other places.
Yeah,
you can kind of only evaluate so much, and so I think I would say temper expectations. I kind of did anyway. The ceiling for me was at least get the tournament. I don't know if that's going to happen simply because of the Big 12 schedule.
Yeah, and his Big 12 looks like it's absolutely stacked again this year.
Which is awesome. I love it. I love being in a conference like that.
Me too. It's the SEC. We're the SEC of college basketball to me.
Yeah, and when you get to the tournament, like you're battle tested because it's every night,
mm-hmm.
Or at least most nights. There's a few you can probably slip through, like Colorado and things like that. But even a team like BYU, who I never thought would be that good at basketball, is highly ranked. Now I'm not much of a basketball historian, so I don't know how well BYU's program has been in the past. But they've never, from my understanding, never really been a juggernaut. But you get a team like that, and all of a sudden they're ranked. You got Texas Tech in there, Houston, Iowa State. I mean, Kansas State's always tough. It's a gauntlet. And so, it'll be hard to adjust. But again, once I think we get the talent in there, and again, the priority is defense, which I like as well.
I do too. But man, you're not going to hold Big 12 teams under 70.
No.
Which is what West Virginia has to do to win games right now.
Right. And maybe even more than that.
It's not realistic.
Right.
Browns and Beer says fan expectations of expecting to get back into the tournament I felt was unfair for a first-year head coach that did get a pretty late start to the portal. That's a fair point. And he feels like DeVries last year caught lightning in a bottle with Small, and it might be unfair to compare this team to last year's team. And there's definitely no Javon Small on this team. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. And also you got to think, too, like we started out hot, and then we had Tucker DeVries and Small, and I think that's why we were able to win early. Of course, we lost DeVries, to a shoulder injury, maybe, speculation there. But down the stretch, we didn't play that good. I mean, we lost to Colorado. That game alone probably kept us out of the tournament.
Mm-hmm.
So he had his lumps too. I think we all remember early on who did we beat? Gonzaga and Kansas, right? Or was it Kansas? I forget. No, it wasn't Kansas. Who did we beat early on?
Iowa State.
Was it Iowa? Yeah, we
Iowa
beat
State.
We beat Gonzaga, and there was somebody else.
Arizona.
Yeah, that's what it was. So we got them early. So I think a lot of that momentum, or the fan momentum, carried through the rest of the season. But really, down the stretch, we were pretty inconsistent. Despite having like the record that we had, but it's a first year. I mean, it's always going to be the toughest. And I like Ross Hodge. I like how our team plays. You just got to get better players. Same thing like with the football team. You could tell they played more physical than they have the last 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to upgrade the talent a little bit.
Agree. Yep. All right, let's go ahead and I want you to touch on this real quick before we have to say goodbye. But let's touch about this whole fiasco with the college football playoff. What are your thoughts about BYU not getting in, about Notre Dame not getting in, all the fiasco surrounding it? Notre Dame decided not to play in a bowl game, the whole mess. What are your thoughts on it? And you can talk a little bit about your beardology stats and all that.
So I don't know. I think the committee did an okay job this time. I like that they put JMU and Tulane in. And the reason I like that is because, and I've seen a lot of people saying, like, well, why did you put someone in that has zero chance of winning a national title? Well, it's to me, I guess it's all on how you perceive what is success, who's earned it, and I don't think just because a team is loaded with talent, spends more money, is in a high level conference like the SEC or Big Ten or whatever, to me that doesn't mean you automatically deserve it. To me, I think it's winning on the field. And you got a team like JMU went 12-1. They don't have the resources that an SEC team does. Right? And this is kind of how I think of it is, so JMU, right, they're a G5 team. They're a really good G5 team, probably the best. Them and Tulane, obviously. They have the resources they need to compete with their peers, teams that have a similar roster, similar resources. And they dominated. They went 12-1. A team like Vanderbilt or Texas, they have much higher resources, much higher or more advantages to combat their schedule. And they didn't get it done as much. They didn't win as much.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand you could say that, well, Texas would wipe the floor with JMU. That's true. They probably would 9 times out of 10, maybe 99 times out of 100. But that's not it's not about who could beat who. Because if you did that, then just put Indiana as a champion because they're the number 1 team. Yeah. Right? I think it's what you do on the field, what's put in front of you, how you handle it. And to me, JMU and Tulane handled their business. They went to their conference championships. They only had, or JMU had 1 loss, Tulane had 2, I believe. But one's 12-1, one's 11-2. Like they got it done.
Yep.
So I think they earned a spot. Whether they could win in the first round or not, I don't think you can. To me, it looks like you're telling the G5, you guys aren't worthy of this because you don't have enough resources to compete with this team. And right. I think it's completely unfair. And to the Notre Dames and the Vanderbilts and the Texas of the world, if you win one more game, you're probably in. I mean, that's how small the margin is.
That's what Vanderbilt's coach said. They asked him about, Notre Dame's crying, skipping bowl games. You know what Vanderbilt's coach said? We should have won. We shouldn't have lost those games we lost.
If Texas beats Florida, they're probably in. Right? I mean, that's
if Vanderbilt beats Vanderbilt had 2 losses, I think.
Yeah.
He was like, if we don't want, we win those games, we're in, and it's not even a question.
Right. And I understand that the JMU or the G5 and the Power 4 argument, and like I said, JMU with the resources they have, they compete against their peers and they dominated. And a team like Texas didn't. They had 3 losses, and a team like Texas has more than enough resources to compete against their peers.
Mm-hmm.
They just didn't get the job done. And to me, success or a great team doesn't always mean the most talented team. It's, JMU may work together better as a team than Texas did. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And I think that's kind of stuff should be rewarded. Now, as far as Notre Dame skipping out on a bowl, I don't know that bowls are going to be around much longer, to be honest.
No, I think this is the second. The first thing that started the domino effect to me was when players started skipping bowl games to get ready for the draft.
Yeah.
That was the first domino. To me, this is the second major domino. You got, I mean, and you've got multiple teams around the country who denied bowl invitations. And then I don't blame for them. They did it for different reasons. Their coaches are leaving. They got players leaving. They're going to have to recruit the portal hard. They may not even have enough teams to fill a full roster, enough
Yeah,
players to fill a full roster, and they're already having to do exit interviews with players, and all of that's happening right now because of the way the calendar's set up.
right,
The calendar needs to be. They need to change the college football calendar for one.
right. Yeah, that's a big one.
It's a huge deal. Yeah, trying to squeeze all of this in December is just not realistic, in my opinion.
Well, and then you have, I heard this earlier today, you have a a coach in Lane Kiffin whose team is in the playoff, has a chance to win the national title. He leaves to go, or was hired away to a team that didn't make the playoff. Like it's just a crazy thing to think out loud, and the fact that he could leave before they even play.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you not want to try to go win a national title, or did you think you couldn't do it, so you just went ahead and left? I don't understand. That's so strange to me.
Yeah.
How a coach could leave a team.
Well, he wanted to coach him apparently, and Ole Miss said, "No, we're not going to let you coach our
Is that
team
what it was?
while
Yeah.
you're recruiting." Well, and I don't blame him. I mean, he's out recruiting against them
Right.
because I mean, it would be different if he went to a team outside of their conference or something. But to go to LSU, who they consider not only in their conference but a heated rival,
Right. And
which
just
I didn't realize that, but apparently Ole Miss fans look at LSU as a big rival.
oh, okay.
I didn't know that either until the other day.
But
But that's that. I think that was part of the problem. But
yeah,
they didn't feel like it was fair to the players that he's not going to be able to give them their undivided attention, and
right.
he's recruit now John Summerall's doing it,
Yeah.
Bob Chesney at JMU's doing it. So I don't know. It's to me
Crazy
there's
scenario.
enough blame to go around in that situation. I know all the heat's going on Lane Kiffin and the way he handled it,
Yeah.
but I'm not ready to necessarily place all the blame on him because we don't know the backstory and the conversations and the kind of money I'm hearing. I think a lot of people would have probably done the same thing. I
Yeah.
mean,
It was like what
let's be honest. Oh, it was insane money.
Yeah.
So it's hard to, and it's LSU.
Right.
I
Like,
mean,
you can definitely win a national title.
yeah,
I mean,
they've won 3 national titles under 3 different coaches in the past 20 years.
yeah. Except for Brian Kelly, who was never
Right. I mean, Orgeron won one,
Yeah.
Saban won one, and Les Miles won one.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I mean, so I'm sure he thinks that he can win one as well.
It's just the college football as we grew up with it, as we know it, it's not the same anymore.
Correct. I blame the system more than I blame Lane Kiffin, I guess.
Oh yeah, 100%. But I mean, just the scenarios we're talking about here. Coaches leaving because they're recruiting against the team that they just got fired from, so they can't be in a playoff game. I mean, that's insane to me. But touching base real quick on the playoff altogether, based on my ratings, I actually had Notre Dame in. They're one of the better teams, but that's because I put bonuses for teams that win consecutive games.
Okay.
But they lost their first 2, and then they went on a 10-game win streak. So that kind of bumped them into there. I actually had Miami out.
Did you have BYU out as well?
I had JMU and Tulane in.
But BYU, what about BYU?
I had BYU in as well. I think they got shafted a little bit.
What bugs me about BYU is the fact that not even that they didn't get in. I can understand it because they don't. When you watch them play, they don't look like a great football team necessarily, but they just win. Does that make sense?
Right, and that was like the whole reason I kind of started that ranking thing. Is like I don't care if you put up 1,000 yards or 100 yards. If you win, you win.
Yeah,
that's the name of the game. You don't get, if you lose, there's not an asterisk saying like, but they put up 500 yards. And my go-to reference is always WVU Baylor in that first Big 12 game. Like,
right.
We scored 70 points. That's awesome. But we also gave up 63.
Right.
So the point margin was only 7. And then you look at Baylor, who put up hundreds of yards, and they still lost the game. So what does it matter what your yardage is did you win or not? And, the point margin kind of is what the style points are for me, And so Yeah, I think BYU got hosed on that one, and I think we have some recency bias when it comes to these things. They got blown out by Texas Tech twice, so essentially they got blown up by the number 4 team twice. I mean,
Right.
and if you go back and look through the history of the college football playoff, I looked it up. There's been 41 games played. 17 of them, which is 41%, all had a final score margin of 20 or more. And that's even dating back to when we just had 4 teams.
Right.
So, like, the number 1 team was beating the number 4 team by like 30 points. So, I mean, you're going to have blowouts
Yep.
because there's a handful of teams that are elite, and it's hard to pick and choose exactly. One season you might have 3, one season you might have 5. So it's hard to put them all in a box of 4 or 12. But I've always been an advocate of 16. Like, just everything else is 16. Just
Yeah. I don't. I don't necessarily like the way Notre Dame's handling it, but I do. When I listen to their AD talk about it on the Dan Patrick show, I actually understand his gripe. The way the committee did it, man, they had them ranked ahead of Miami the entire time.
And then just a switcheroo, and none of
And a week that they don't even, neither of them play, all of a sudden they move Miami ahead of them.
Right.
I'm telling you that looks suspicious to me.
It does.
Does it not?
Yeah. I don't understand how you have them up there and then all of a sudden they're out. And again, like I said, I didn't have Miami in it at all because I know they're 10-2, but I think the ACC is incredibly weak this year.
Mm-hmm.
And go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead and finish your thought, then I'll get to this.
And the reason why is because I had them at one point in the rankings I had in a 3-week span. They is like late October, early November, something like that. They lost to Louisville. They beat Stanford, who's a terrible team. I had them rated in the hundreds, and then they lost to SMU. That's 3 weeks of bad football. I mean, I know they beat Stanford, but Stanford's not a
right.
You should have, right? So you
Correct.
don't really get points for that. So that's 3 weeks of either bad or mediocre football, and you don't see that with a lot of these other teams.
No.
If they come up against a superior or an inferior opponent, they either won or and to me I don't think they perform that well. And then they go on to blow out like NC State and Boston College and Syracuse or something like that. Those are incredibly weak teams this year.
Yeah.
I just don't think they had a very hard schedule.
Yeah, and to Browns and Beers' point here is, and I don't even have as big an issue with BYU getting left, because I actually felt like Miami, Notre Dame, and BYU were all good enough to get in. I really do. But because they had to put the 2 G6s in based on the rules, the highest ranked conference champions, one of them got kicked out, and that happened to be BYU. Well, 2 of them got kicked out, actually. But my point being, of those 3, who do you put in? And it ain't even the fact that they got left out as much as it is the talking head national media won't even mention their name.
Right.
They talked about Notre Dame and Miami ad nauseum, and then they would say, well, even Vanderbilt and Texas have a gripe. Vanderbilt and Texas were rated behind BYU.
Yeah.
And Texas has 3 losses. So how can you justify ranking? But it's almost like BYU doesn't even exist.
Yeah.
And the thing is, the media did not even ask about BYU until yesterday. They didn't even ask about them the previous 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It's like nobody gave a crap. The BYU was sitting there with 1 loss, not even in the top 10. They were the only 1-loss team not in the top 10. And you had multiple 2-loss teams ahead of them. Some of them rightfully so. I'm not debating all that. But my point is there do you think there's a bias against BYU specifically, or is it a bias against the Big 12? What do you think the problem is?
I think there's a bias just in college football in general. I think people look at the logo on the helmet, your conference affiliation, and I just think they see, well, you're Alabama. We know you're going to be tough. You know what I mean? Like, and again, they could all be proven right if BYU could lose in the first round. Texas Tech could lose in the first round. Maybe they're all right, but that's not the point. The point is they earned a chance to play in the college football playoff. And I would advocate a couple years ago with Florida State. You had an undefeated ACC champion, and they left him out because their quarterbacks were injured. And it's like, well, we don't think you're going to perform that well. That's not the point. I mean, you're basically telling the players like, sorry, you got injured. You're not allowed in."
Yeah, it's the dumbest. It's
The
absolute
injuries are part
insanity.
of the game.
They have got to get rid of this committee has got to go, man.
And I'd even, I understand like in my rating thing, like I have numbers that are a lot different. Like I have
Mm-hmm.
JMU a lot higher simply because they won so many games.
Right.
But I would be willing to do like a compromise of where you kind of had a BCS system that ranked
Mm-hmm.
12 or 16 teams. And of those 12 and 16, you had a committee that seeded them.
Yeah.
Something like that. Because obviously JMU, I think I have them like number 3 or 4 or 5, something like that. Obviously,
Yeah.
they're not the third or fourth, fifth best team in the country, but because of their record, they earned a lot of points from that. But like I said, you can take those teams and then seed them, as you see fit.
Correct.
But
I see what you're
I
saying.
like the system. To me, they just should have expanded it a little bit.
Yeah. If it was 16 teams, BYU, Notre Dame would both be in.
Vanderbilt
Would they
would be,
not? Vanderbilt and Texas, and Vanderbilt and Texas would be in.
yeah.
Right.
Now,
So
again, that works for this year, but who knows? You're always going to have a complaint, right? If you go to 16,
17
17,
and 18, then Utah fans will be pissed.
yeah, which I have Utah in mine too.
Yeah.
In the top 12.
There has to be a cutoff somewhere. I agree with you.
Yeah.
But Denny Allen, real quick, and I know we'll get out of here soon, but Denny Allen says the issue I have is they aren't consistent with their selection standards that only apply to Big 12 teams, do not to members of other conferences. That's a great point. If you have 3 losses, you're out, in my honest opinion. And then he goes on to say, and I only watch WVU podcasters who are brothers of my hairline. Thank you, Denny. We appreciate your support, buddy.
Sorry about that. But yeah, I think he made a great point. Is they move the goalpost every year.
Yeah.
And so they set precedents, and I think you have to grade on a curve. It's kind of like golf. You may have the greatest round of your life, but if 4 other guys have a round better, you're 4th place, right?
Yeah.
And so a Texas team that's 9-3 or a Vanderbilt that's 10-2, that's a great season for Vanderbilt. That's historic.
Yeah.
But you have 3 11-1 teams and 2 undefeated teams. Like, sorry, it's not your year this year.
Yeah, Aaron Riffle says he disagrees with you. He thinks it needs to be the best teams regardless. And then Daniel Gigak says Big 12 needs a fine bomb. Who would that be? I think Dave Portnoy's trying to be that guy a little bit.
Yeah.
But that might not be the best.
Yeah, he's a Michigan guy, so he might be more of a
yeah. But he has been really firing or sounding the alarm on BYU and how they've been getting screwed.
Yeah, I know.
A lot.
Yeah.
But I don't know. But you're right. The Big 12 needs who is that? I mean, there's people like us in the YouTube world. There's a bunch of us, but none of us have the following or the national platform of a fine bomb, obviously. But
yeah, we're kind of when you talk among the 4, we're kind of the island of misfit toys. Like we don't belong. You know what I mean? Like we're kind of teams that jumped from other conferences because we got rated.
Yeah.
We don't have a
nobody wanted us.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but I think we're a hell of a conference. I think we're a lot deeper.
I love it. I mean, I enjoy it. I wish it made more sense. I wish there was more regionality. I mean, obviously, but from a selfish perspective. But as far as the culture fit and all that, I think it's great.
Yeah, we're much better than the ACC. They
Agreed.
A long time ago they went with market share, and nobody cares about Boston College. Nobody cares about Virginia. Nobody cares about Northeast football. It's just not. It's not relevant, and so I think that was their. They went and got Syracuse and Pitt and stuff like that because of market share. Nobody cares about those teams. I mean, who cares about BC versus Wake Forest? That seems like the most boring matchup I could ever think of.
Yep, absolutely. Agree with you, brother. Agree with you. Aaron Riffle thinks that nobody wants to see Tulane and JMU get blown out, and I understand that. But like Beer mentioned earlier, there's always been blowouts, even when they only had a 14 playoff. No, remember Notre Dame getting blown out by Alabama? I think it was a couple different times. Oklahoma got blown out once.
There was one. It was one of the first ones Michigan State was number
Yep.
4 in Alabama, and I think they won like 31, 38 to nothing.
Yeah.
They shut them out, something like that.
We saw Oregon last year. Oregon was the number 1 or number 2 seed last year and got absolutely boat raced in their first game.
Yeah,
Remember that?
Tennessee was the 3rd best team in the SEC, and they got
boat raced.
Ohio State. And I'll say this to Aaron: the thing I think that it does is it shows these smaller schools there is a path, and if that means that they pump more money into that, knowing that that can happen, I think you're going to get more good football across the board. You know,
that's a great point.
At least I hope so. I mean, to me, the more teams that are capable of making a national title run.
Yeah, I think, and I know you got to get out of here, but real quick, I'll make one more point is about the Big 12. I get sick of seeing the narrative that Texas Tech's buying their way in. Is that not what every other team and every other conference has been doing for the past 100 years?
Right. It's all about money. It's always has.
But yet, when a Big 12 team does it, all of a sudden, Ohio State's sitting out here spending 200 and some. I don't remember how many millions. I don't remember them. It's over $1 billion athletic budget. I think it was. I read somewhere.
Yeah.
Nobody cares. Nobody complains about that.
Right.
But Texas Tech, who normally only has a $300,000 budget, all of a sudden they're up in the 40 whatever. Pick a number.
Yeah. Well, the difference is now is you can actually pay the players. Before it was facilities.
Right.
It was all the bells and whistles surrounding the program, but you're still spending money. You're still spending big time money. Now you can just pay the players directly, and so it's all above board now. But again, these big time blue bloods have been doing that for years.
Yep. But all of a sudden a Big 12 team doesn't. Everybody's got and let's not forget, it takes more than money to win. I mean, you can spend all the money you want if you don't have a culture in place, and you don't spend the money on the right guys.
Yeah,
you're not going to be a good team.
Well, look at LSU. I mean,
LSU, Texas. I mean, I know Texas is still doing pretty well, but they didn't get to playoff. They still lost 3 games and lost to Florida.
Right.
So I mean, spending money doesn't automatically make you win. It's just it gets you to the dance, right?
Right.
And it's up to the evaluation and the development process and the execution get you and the culture get you the rest of the way.
Right. And I'll close out with this. I said getting the talent raises your floor, but the coach is what sets the ceiling.
Correct.
That's the guy that's going to take that talent to the next level.
And Joey McGuire's done a great job doing that.
Yeah.
Fantastic job. So, all right. Well, everybody listen, we're going to call it quits here. Or I'll let Beard go because I know I think he has another meeting or appointment to get to.
I got to get back to work.
Go check him out. Yeah, I do too here in just a second. Check him out over at Earbeard on Twitter and Earbeard on podcast and on YouTube. Thanks for hopping on, brother.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stay on and answer a couple questions and then I'm going to go myself.
All right. Have a good one.
Thank you, brother. All right, let's go ahead and Aaron Riffle says, WVU can absolutely recover from Jaheim. I love Jaheim, but he's not an all-worldly talent. Not to diminish him, but that's just the facts of it. And then Browns and Beer says, a bit of a shame that it feels like Dave's been a bigger advocate for the Big 12 than Pat McAfee's been. Yeah, Pat doesn't get into the conference thing, unfortunately. I don't know what his reasoning behind that is. Obviously love his support of West Virginia, but I think he's just, he's trying to be more of a national show, I think. And he's got a lot of connections with other teams and other leagues and all that. So that's the only thing I can think of, but I do love the fact that he raises awareness for West Virginia all the time. Jimmy McKenna says BYU is much more deserved than Notre Dame and Alabama both, but the committee doesn't get enough respect to the Big 12, and until Texas Tech has a path to national championship to win, I hope every Big 12 team that's in a bowl game blows out on the scoreboard. BYU is a great matchup with Georgia Tech. Browns and Beer says Wren acknowledged during that dinner in Charleston that Ohio State still somehow lost $40 million last year despite winning a national title. That's insane. Aaron Riffle says, your Browns and Beers, that can't be sustainable. Something has to be done to govern and control this wild world of college football is in. Absolutely. They need to have a commissioner I think they need to somehow figure out a way to go to more of an NFL model. Unfortunately, they're going to an NFL model would require you to not have as many teams. You can't have an NFL model with 136 teams. It just doesn't make any sense. Although I do love that the G6s have access, I think for the future of the sport to I don't want to say survive because it's more popular than ever, but for it to be a fair and sustainable model for everybody, I'm not sure that you can have the G6s and the P4s all in the same altogether. I just don't. I don't think it makes any sense going forward. And I think somehow, some way, and I think it's just coming down the road. And having two G6s in this year may push it to happen faster. But I think at some point you're going to see that separation where you see the P4, heck, maybe even a P2, separate themselves over everybody else. And then you're going to have the G6s left. I don't know. I hate it. I don't like it. But I'm just not sure there's any other way to sustain it and make it equitable and fair for everybody, if that makes sense. And then the G6s can have their own playoff and crown a national champion from their level. And I don't think there's a thing wrong with that. But anyway, well, listen, I'm going to jump off of here. I have to get back to work as well. I thank you all for hopping on here today in this live show. Baldwin, we were planning to record today, but with the Gene White news breaking, we thought we'd come on here live and kind of give our thoughts on it. Denny Allen, real quick, says, my first thought reaction to Gene was expletive, but then it hit me. We haven't really had him for about almost 2 years. I love the kid, but the incoming talent will offset his departure, hopefully. Yeah, I love him too, and he's definitely a great back, and I do think he'd be really good in Rich Rod's system. But I trust, like I said earlier in the show, I trust Rich Rod's evaluation of running backs, and I trust his ability to get the most out of his running backs in his offense, just because I think the offense is built for running backs to have success. And I think he knows how to evaluate backs and get the right guys that fit. So I have no doubt that somebody on that roster or multiple guys on that roster will be able to have success in that offense. Not saying they're as good as Jaheim White, but I think they can be successful in that offense. All right. Thank you all for hopping on here. I also have to get back to work. I appreciate it. Hope the rest of your day's top shelf. God bless you. And Q Country Roads. And by the way, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. It's all free.